The discovery Victoria Sterling had always believed that life held no more surprises for her. 26, she worked 3 jobs just to keep her small apartment and send money to her mother in the countryside. Her art degree felt like a distant dream. As she scrubbed floors in Manhattan's most prestigious office buildings each night, the cleaning company paid little, but the work was steady. In a city that devoured dreams, steady meant survival. Tonight felt different as she entered the penthouse. Office of Cross Technologies. The space belonged to Damian Cross, the youngest billionaire in tech, whose face graced magazine covers and business journals. Victoria had seen him only in passing during her 6 months of cleaning his building, always in expensive suits, always, surrounded by serious-looking people in equally expensive clothes. The office itself was a monument to success. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Central Park, while modern art pieces worth more than most people's houses decorated the walls. Everything screamed power and precision, except for one small item that made Victoria's heart stop. On the corner of his massive glass desk sat a music box. Not just any music box, but one carved from rich mahogany with intricate details that she recognized instantly. The tiny dancing figure inside was a ballerina her father had carved by hand, and along the base, almost too small to see, were the initials R.S. Robert Sterling, her father. Victoria's hands trembled as she set down her cleaning supplies. Her father had been an inventor, a dreamer who created beautiful mechanical toys and music boxes in their garage workshop. He had died when she was 15, leaving behind nothing but debt and a few precious memories. This music box was supposed to have been sold with everything else to pay for his medical bills. She reached out to touch it, her fingers tracing the familiar engravings. The scent of wood polish mixed with the sterile office air. And suddenly, she was 12 again. Watching her father's weathered hands bring magic to life from simple pieces of wood and metal. It's beautiful, isn't it? Victoria spun around, her heart hammering. Damian Cross stood in the doorway, but he looked different from the magazine photos. His suit jacket was gone, his white shirt sleeves rolled up, and his dark hair was slightly messed as if he'd been running his hands through it. His steel-gray eyes weren't cold like she'd expected, but tired, almost vulnerable. "I'm sorry," Victoria stammered, stepping back from the desk. "I wasn't supposed to touch anything personal. I just saw it, and I thought you thought what?" His voice was gentler than she'd imagined, curious rather than angry. Victoria looked at him, then back at the music box. Taking a deep breath, she made a decision that would change everything. "My father made this. Robert Sterling. He was an inventor, a craftsman. This was one of his last pieces before he died." Damian's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his features. He moved closer, studying her face as if seeing her for the first time. Victoria Sterling. It wasn't a question. The words sent a chill down her spine. "You know me?" "No, you work 3 jobs to support your mother. I know you have an art degree you've never been able to use. I know you lost your father when you were 15, and that his workshop was sold to pay medical debts." Damian's voice was matter-of-fact but not unkind. "What I didn't know was that he created this." Victoria felt exposed, vulnerable. "Why were you investigating me?" Instead of answering, Damian walked to his desk and gestured for her to sit in the chair opposite him. "Because I need your help, Victoria. And after seeing how you reacted to that music box, I think we might be able to help each other." The transformation Victoria remained standing, her defenses up. "What kind of help?" Damian leaned back in his chair, studying her. Cross Technologies is facing a hostile takeover. My Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, has been systematically turning board members against me. She believes I'm too young, too reckless. She wants control of the company my father built. What does that have to do with me? The board meets in 2 weeks to vote on her proposal to remove me as CEO. These are old-fashioned people, Victoria. They believe in tradition, stability. They think an unmarried 29-year-old can't provide the kind of leadership a family company needs. Victoria began to understand. "You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" "My fiancé, actually." Damian opened a desk drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. "For one evening, stand beside me at the board meeting. Play the part of the supportive future wife. Help me show them I'm settled, responsible, ready to lead this company into the future." The audacity of it took her breath away. "You want me to lie to your entire board of directors? I want you to help me save my father's legacy." Damian's voice grew passionate. "Patricia doesn't understand technology, doesn't understand innovation. Under her leadership, Cross Technologies will become just another corporate dinosaur. My father dreamed of using technology to make people's lives better, to create things that mattered." He gestured toward the music box. "That music box on my deskit was his inspiration for our first breakthrough in microengineering." Victoria stared at him. "My father's music box inspired your technology. The precision, the miniaturization, the way complex mechanisms could create something beautifully. Your father's work helped shape everything we've built here." Damian stood up, his intensity filling the room. "That's why I need you specifically. You're not just any woman I'm paying to play a role. You're Robert Sterling's daughter. You represent the kind of innovation and craftsmanship that made this company great." The offer hung between them like a bridge across a canyon. Victoria could see the desperation in Damian's eyes, the weight of responsibility he carried. But she could also see opportunity, not just for money, but for something more. "What's in it for me?" she asked quietly. $50,000 up front, another $100,000 after the meeting. Enough to pay off your mother's medical bills and maybe start that art career you've put on hold." The amount was staggering, life-changing. But Victoria had learned to be careful of things that seemed too good to be true. "And if I say no?" Damian's smile was rueful. "Then I probably lose my company, and Patricia Cross gets to dismantle everything my father worked for. And you go back to cleaning offices, wondering what might have been." Victoria walked to the window, looking out. At the glittering city below, somewhere down there, was her tiny apartment, her mother's mounting bills, her abandoned dreams. Behind her was a man offering her a chance to change it all. But at what cost? "I have conditions," she said without turning around. "I'm listening." "First, this isn't charity. If I do this, it's because I'm worth it, not because you pity the poor cleaning lady. I want a contract that spells out exactly what's expected of me." She turned to face him. "Second, I want to know everything about how my father's work influenced your company. If I'm going to represent that legacy, I need to understand it." Damian was quiet for a moment. "That's more complicated than you might think." "Why?" "Because your father didn't just inspire our technology, he helped create it. Robert Sterling was one of our first contractors, back when Cross Technologies was just my father and 3 employees working out of a garage. The official records say he was paid for his contributions, but..." Damian ran a hand through his hair. "I've been going through my father's old files. I'm not sure he was properly compensated." The room seemed to tilt around Victoria. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your father might be owed more than just recognition. A lot more. Patents, royalties, intellectual property rights. If I'm right, you could have a legitimate claim to a significant portion of this company." Victoria sank into the chair, overwhelmed. "Why are you telling me this? Why not just keep it buried?" "Because I'm not my father, and I'm not my aunt. If Robert Sterling helped build Cross Technologies, then his daughter deserves to know." Damian leaned forward, his eyes intense. "That's exactly why I need your help now. Patricia takes over, those files will disappear. Any chance of making things right will be gone forever." The weight of his words settled over Victoria like a heavy blanket. This wasn't just about playing pretend anymore. This was about justice, about family, about setting right things that had been wrong for too long. "A deal," she said, her voice stronger now. "But I want one more thing. After this is over, regardless of what happens with the board meeting, you help me find out the truth about my father's work. All of it, and if he was cheated, we make it right." Damian extended his hand. Across the desk, "Deal." Victoria looked at his hand, then at the music box that had started it all. Her father's creation, sitting in a billionaire's office, a symbol of dreams and ambition, and the complicated ways that lives intersect. She reached out and shook Damian's hand. As their hands touched, Victoria felt a spark of electricity that had nothing to do with their business arrangement. She looked into Damian's eyes and saw something that surprised her not. just desperation or calculation, but genuine respect. Maybe even the beginning of something more. So she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "When do we start?" Damian smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked like a man instead of a magazine cover. "How about tomorrow? I'll pick you up at 7. We have a lot of work to do if we're going to convince a room full of skeptical billionaires that we're madly in love." The revelation Victoria stood in front of her bathroom mirror the next morning, staring at her reflection with a mixture of disbelief and terror. In 12 hours, she would be transformed from a night shift cleaner into the supposed fiancé of one of the world's most powerful men. The weight of what she had agreed to pressed down on her like a physical force. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Car will pick you up at 9 a.m. We have shopping to do." Damian shopping. Victoria looked at her closet filled with second-hand clothes and her few work uniforms. She had never owned anything that cost more than $50. And now she was supposed to convince a room full of millionaires that she belonged in their world. The black sedan that arrived was worth more than she made in a year. The driver, a kind-faced man named Thomas, treated her with the same respect he would show any VIP passenger. It was her first taste of how different her life was about to become. Damian was waiting for her outside an exclusive boutique in Midtown, looking effortlessly sophisticated in a charcoal suit. When he saw her emerge from the car in her best jeans and a simple sweater, his expression softened. "Ready for this?" he asked, offering his arm.
Yes.
"As ready as someone can be for something completely insane," Victoria replied, accepting his gesture. Inside the boutique, Victoria felt like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole. The saleswoman, Helena, treated her like royalty the moment Damian introduced her as his fiancé. Dresses that cost more than Victoria's monthly rent were brought out for consideration, each one more beautiful than the last. "But not flashy," Damian instructed Helena. "Needs to look like herself, just elevated." Victoria caught his eye in the mirror as Helena fussed around her with measuring tape. "How do you know what I look like as myself?" "'Cause I've been watching you for months," he admitted quietly. "Every night when you clean my office, I saw your reflection in the windows. You move with purpose, with grace. You care about doing things right, even when no one is watching. That's not something you can fake." His words sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. She had spent so long feeling invisible that having someone truly see her was almost overwhelming. After the shopping expedition, Damian took Victoria to Cross Technology's archive, Flora temperature-controlled vault filled with decades of company records. The sterile environment felt like a museum dedicated to corporate history. "Your father's files are here," Damian said, leading her to a section marked Independent Contractors 1995 to 2005. He pulled out a thick folder labeled Sterling. Robert Mechanical Engineering Consultations. Victoria's hands shook as she opened it. Inside were blueprints in her father's careful handwriting, correspondence between him and Damian's father, and most shocking of all, patent applications with both their names listed as co-inventors. "My God," she whispered, studying a design for microgears that she recognized from her father's workshop. "This is the technology that made your company billions. The precision series processors. Yes. Your father's miniaturization techniques were revolutionary." Damian pointed to a letter dated 3 months before her father's death. He was supposed to receive ongoing royalties, not just a one-time payment. Victoria read the letter, her heartbreaking with each line. Her father had written to Damian's father, David Cross, asking about overdue payments. He mentioned Victoria's upcoming college tuition, her mother's medical expenses, the growing debt from his illness. The response letter was brutal in its dismissal. "All contractual obligations have been fulfilled. No further payments are owed." "He lied," Victoria said, her voice hollow. "Your father lied to mine." Damian nodded grimly. "My father was brilliant with technology, but he was also ruthless in business. After your father died, he buried the evidence, made it look like Robert Sterling was just a minor contractor instead of a true partner." Victoria's hands clenched into fists. "My father died believing he was a failure. He thought he hadn't left us anything, that his work didn't matter. We lost our house, our workshop, everything. My mother is still paying off medical debts from his treatment. I'm sorry, Damian said quietly. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring him back, Victoria snapped, then immediately regretted her tone. I'm sorry. I know this isn't your fault, isn't it? Damian challenged. I've been running this company for 5 years. I could have looked into this sooner, could have tried to make things right. Victoria studied his face, seeing the genuine remorse there. Why didn't you? Because I was a coward. I was afraid of what I might find, afraid of tarnishing my father's legacy. But seeing you react to that music box, seeing the proof right, here in black and white, ... he gestured to the files. Some things are more important than protecting the past. Victoria picked up another documenta, technical specification that showed her father's signature alongside detailed engineering notes. He was a genius, wasn't he? My father, he was. His work on micromechanical systems was decades ahead of its time. The precision manufacturing techniques he developed, the way he could create complex movements in tiny spaces, it changed everything. For us, then why did your father steal from him? Damian was quiet for a long moment, because he could. Because Robert Sterling was a trusting man who believed in handshake deals and honor among craftsmen. Because my father saw an opportunity to build an empire, and he took it. The weight of the revelation settled over Victoria like a shroud. Her father hadn't been a failure. He had been a victim, brilliant, innovative, and ultimately betrayed by the very person who had promised to be his partner. What happens now? She asked. We get ready for the board meeting, play our part to save the company, and then we figure out how to make this right. Damian looked at her with something approaching. You realize what this means? Don't? You're not just Robert Sterling's daughter. You're the rightful heir to a fortune. Those patents, those innovations, they should have made your family wealthy. Victoria laughed bitterly. Instead, they made your family wealthy, while mine struggled to survive. That changes now, Damian said firmly. I promise you, Victoria. Whatever it takes, we're going to make this right. As they left the archives, Victoria felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She wasn't just playing a role anymore. She was fighting for her father's legacy, for her family's future, for justice that had been denied for too long.
Ow.
The fake engagement had become something much more real and much more dangerous.
Ow.
And Victoria Sterling was ready for the fight. The confrontation the night before the board meeting, Victoria stood in her transformed apartment, courtesy of Damian's styling team. The elegant navy dress fit her perfectly, the subtle jewelry caught the light just right, and her hair had been styled into a sophisticated updo. She looked the part of a billionaire's fiancé, but inside, her heart was racing. Damian arrived at 7 sharp, looking devastating in a black tuxedo. But when he saw her, his usual composure cracked slightly. You look, he began, then stopped, shaking his head. You look perfect. I feel like a fraud, Victoria admitted, smoothing down her dress. You're not a fraud. You're Robert Sterling's daughter, standing up for what's rightfully yours. He stepped closer, his voice gentle. Are you ready for this? Victoria nodded, though her hands were trembling. What if they see through us? What if they realize we barely know each other? Damian took her hands in his, steadying them. Then, we'll improvise. But Victoria, something you should know, this isn't as fake as it started out to be. Not for me. Before she could respond, his phone rang. The car was ready. The Cross Technologies headquarters had been transformed for the board meeting. The executive conference room on the 40th floor gleamed with polished mahogany and crystal. Chandeliers, floor-toozling windows offered a breathtaking view of the Manhattan skyline, while oil paintings of company founders watched over the proceedings. Victoria entered on Damian's arm and immediately felt the weight of scrutiny from 12 pairs of eyes. The board members were exactly what she'd expected: older, distinguished men and women in expensive suits, their faces showing polite interest, tinged with skepticism. At the head of the table sat Patricia Cross, a severe woman in her 60s, with silver hair pulled back and a perfect chignon. Her pale blue eyes assessed Victoria with the calculating gaze of a predator sizing up prey. So, Patricia said, her voice carrying the authority of old money. This is the mysterious fiancé we've heard so little about. Damian's hand tightened on Victoria's waist. Patricia, I'd like you to meet Victoria Sterling. Victoria, my aunt. Patricia Sterling. Patricia repeated, her eyes narrowing. That name is familiar. Victoria's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her voice steady. My father was Robert Sterling. Did some work for Cross Technologies years ago. Ah, yes. The handyman, Patricia said dismissively. I remember now. David mentioned him once or twice. The casual cruelty of introducing her father to a handyman made Victoria's blood boil. But she forced herself to smile. He was actually an inventor and engineer. He helped develop some of the technology that made this company what it is today. Patricia's laugh was like ice cracking. Oh, my dear, I'm sure he was very skilled for his ... level. But let's not inflate his contributions. Cross Technology succeeded because of cross-vision and cross-innovation. Actually, Damian interrupted, his voice sharp. Robert Sterling was instrumental in developing our core microengineering processes. Without his work, we wouldn't have had our breakthrough patents. The room fell silent. Several board members shifted uncomfortably, and Patricia's face hardened. Said her voice dangerously quiet, I think you're confused about the company's history. Perhaps this is what I've been concerned about, your tendency to romanticize rather than focus on facts. I'm not romanticizing anything, Damian replied, pulling a folder from his briefcase. I'm stating facts. Robert Sterling was a partner. In the early development of our Precision Series technology, he was supposed to receive ongoing royalties, not just a one-time payment. He began distributing copies of the documents Victoria had helped him organize. The room erupted in murmurs as board members examined the evidence. This is preposterous, Patricia snapped, but Victoria could see the fear in her eyes. These documents could be fabricated. You'd say anything to? To what? Victoria interrupted, stepping forward. To give credit where it's due? To acknowledge that my father's innovations helped build this empire? She turned to address the entire room, her voice growing stronger with each word. My father died believing he was a failure. He lost everything, his workshop, his house, his dreams, because he trusted David Cross to honor their agreement. He died in debt, thinking his work didn't matter. But it did matter. It mattered so much that this company built its fortune on his innovations. Patricia stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're listening to the fantasies of a gold-digging cleaning woman who's I'm trying to set the record straight. Victoria cut her off. I'm trying to make sure my father's contributions are finally recognized. And I'm trying to support the man who had the courage to bring the truth to light, even when it would have been easier to keep it buried. She looked at Damian, and in that moment, she realized her feelings for him had become completely real. Damian Cross could have hidden this forever, could have let my father's legacy disappear into corporate history. But he chose to do the right thing. That's the kind of leader this company needs. The board members were studying the documents with growing interest. Victoria could see the shift in the room's skepticism giving way to curiosity, then to understanding. These engineering specifications, said Margaret Chen, the board's technology advisor, they're remarkable. The precision manufacturing techniques described here are the foundation of our current production methods. And look at these patent applications, added another member, Robert Hayes. Robert Sterling is listed as co-inventor on 3 of our most valuable patents. If these are legitimate. They're not legitimate, Patricia insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. David Cross built this company. He was the genius, the visionary. He was a thief, Victoria said quietly, but her words carried clearly through the room. He stole my father's work and then erased him from history. The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia's face had gone pale, and Victoria could see the moment when the older woman realized she had lost. Even if this is true, Patricia said desperately, it doesn't change the fact that Damian is too young, too inexperienced to lead this company. He's making emotional decisions based on some misguided sense of guilt. I'm making the right decisions, Damian said firmly. I'm choosing transparency over cover-ups, justice over convenience. That's exactly the kind of leadership this company needs moving forward. He turned to the board. I'm not asking you to trust me because of my last name or because of what my father built. I'm asking you to trust me because of what I'm going to build. A company that honors its true partners, that credits its real innovators, that operates with integrity. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Patricia Cross was removed from her position, and Damian's leadership was confirmed. But Victoria barely heard the formal announcements. Her mind was spinning with the implications of what had just happened. As the board members filed out, Patricia approached Victoria one last time. You think you've won something here, she said, her voice bitter, but you have no idea what you've unleashed. The Sterling name will mean nothing when the lawyers are done with you. The Sterling name already means something, Victoria replied calmly. It means innovation, craftsmanship, and integrity. Everything your brother tried to steal. Patricia's face contorted with rage, but before she could respond, Damian appeared at Victoria's side. Patricia, he said quietly, your car is waiting. After she left, Victoria found herself alone with Damian in the conference room. The adrenaline was wearing off, and the magnitude of what had happened was beginning to sink in. We did it, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You did it, Damian corrected. You were incredible. The way you stood up to her, the way you defended your father's legacy. He stepped closer, and Victoria could see something in his eyes that made her heart race. Victoria, I need to tell you something. This started as a business arrangement, but somewhere along the way, it became real for me. You became real for me. Victoria felt her breath catch. Damian, I'm in love with you, he said simply. I know it's crazy, I know it's complicated, but I needed you to know. Before she could respond, he kissed her, and Victoria felt the last of her defenses crumble. This wasn't part of the plan, wasn't part of the deal they'd made, but it was real, and it was theirs. When they finally broke apart, Victoria smiled up at him. For someone who's supposed to be a genius, you're pretty slow on the uptake. What do you mean? I've been falling for you since the moment I saw you looking at my father's music box. I just didn't think someone like you could ever really fall for someone like me. Damian cupped her face in his hands. Someone like you? I mean brilliant, brave, beautiful, and strong enough to fight for what's right. Victoria laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. When you put it that way, ... I love you, Victoria Sterling, he said again. And I promise you, we're going to make everything right. Your father's legacy, your family's future, all of it. Victoria believed him. The first time in her life, she believed in happy endings. The resolution 3 months later, Victoria stood in the same penthouse office where her life had changed forever. But now, instead of cleaning supplies, she carried architectural plans for the Robert Sterling Innovation Center, state-of-the-art. A facility that would house Cross Technology's Research and Development Division. The legal settlement had been finalized the week before. Victoria was now officially a partner in Cross Technologies, with a stake that reflected her father's true contributions to the company. The back pay and royalties had been calculated at over $50 million, enough to secure her family's future for generations. But more than the money, Victoria treasured the recognition. Her father's name would be engraved on the building, his innovations properly credited in the company's official history. The man who had died thinking he was a failure would be remembered as the visionary he truly was. Damian entered the office, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the relaxed smile that had become Victoria's favorite sight in the world. In the months since the board meeting, they had worked side by side to restructure the company, implement new ethical guidelines, and ensure that Cross Technologies would never again exploit its partners. The construction crew says they'll break ground next month, he said, handing her a cup. Your father's workshop designs are going to be beautiful. Victoria smiled, looking out at the city below. He would have loved seeing his ideas come true. Life on such a scale. He is seeing them, Damian said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Through you. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Manhattan. The music box sat on Damian's desk, but now it was accompanied by a framed photo of Robert Sterling in his workshop, surrounded by his creations. Damian said, stepping back and reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box knot, the fake one from their first meeting, but something new. Victoria's heart skipped a beat. Damian ... I know we started with a fake engagement, he said, dropping to one knee. But I want this to be real. I want everything to be real. Victoria Sterling, will you marry me? The ring was perfect, a classic solitaire that caught the light like a star. But what made Victoria's eyes fill with tears was the inscription on the band. For the daughter of a dreamer. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, of course, yes. As Damian slipped the ring onto her finger, Victoria felt the ghosts of the past finally settling into peace. Her father's legacy was secure, her family's future was bright, and she had found love in the most unexpected place. I love you, she said, pulling him to his feet and into her arms. I love you too, he replied, kissing her softly. And I promise you, we're going to build something beautiful together. Something that would make your father proud. Victoria looked around the office one more time at the music box, at the photo of her father, at the plans for the innovation center. Then she looked at Damian, the man who had helped her reclaim her family's honor and found his own redemption in the process. I think we already have, she said. 6 months later, Victoria and Damian were married in a small ceremony. In the countryside, with Victoria's mother as the maid of honor and the completed innovation center as their backdrop. The building rose like a monument to dreams realized, its glass walls reflecting the sky and its halls echoing with the sound of creativity and innovation. The Cross Technologies board had been restructured to include independent contractors and inventors, ensuring that future partnerships would be fair and transparent. Patricia Cross had been quietly removed from all company affairs, her attempts at legal retaliation having failed in the face of overwhelming evidence. Victoria's art studio occupied the top floor of the Innovation Center, where she created pieces that celebrated the intersection of technology and human creativity. Her first major exhibition, Mechanisms of the Heart, had been a stunning success, establishing her as a rising star in the contemporary art world. But her greatest masterpiece was the Memorial Garden at the center's heart, a quiet space where visitors could sit among sculptures inspired by Robert Sterling's mechanical toys, listening to the gentle melodies of music boxes that played his compositions. On the first anniversary of their meeting, Victoria and Damian returned to his office for a private celebration. The space had been transformed into a museum-like showcase of innovation history, with Robert Sterling's story prominently featured, alongside other inventors who had shaped Cross Technologies. Do you ever regret it? Victoria asked, curled up beside Damian on the sofa they'd added to make the space more comfortable. Giving up so much of the company wealth to make things? Right? Damian laughed, pulling her closer. Regret falling in love with the most incredible woman in the world? Regret building a company based on integrity instead of exploitation? Never. He gestured toward the music box, which still held its place of honor on his desk. Besides, your father taught me something important. Through his work, true value isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in the impact you have on the world, the legacy you leave behind. Victoria smiled, thinking of her mother, who now lived comfortably in a beautiful home near the Innovation Center. Her medical bills a thing of the past, she thought. Of the young inventors and artists who worked in the center, pursuing their dreams with the support and recognition they deserved. He would be so proud, she said softly. He would be proud of you, Damian corrected. You're the one who fought. For his legacy, you're the one who made sure his story was told. As if summoned by their conversation, the music box began to play its familiar melody, the same tune Victoria remembered from her childhood, when her father would wind it up to help her fall asleep. But now it sounded different, not melancholy, but hopeful, like a promise fulfilled. I used to think that music box was all I had left of him, Victoria said, listening to the gentle notes. But I was wrong. I have his passion for creating beautiful things, his belief that innovation should serve humanity, his faith that good people will eventually do the right thing. And now, our children will have all of that too, Damian said, his hand moving to rest on Victoria's still flat stomach. Victoria's eyes widened. How did you? I've been watching you for months, remember? I notice everything about you. His smile was tender. Are you happy? Terrified, Victoria admitted. But yes, incredibly happy. Good, because I have plans for that little one. I'm thinking we start teaching them about precision engineering as soon as they can hold a toy." Victoria laughed, imagining their future child playing with the same kind of mechanical toys her father had created. "Just promise me we'll also teach them about art, about beauty, about the importance of dreaming big." "Promise," Damian said, sealing it with a kiss. As they sat together in the office where their story had begun, Victoria felt the circle of her life completing itself. Her father's dreams had been realized, his legacy secured. Her family's future was bright, built on a foundation of love, integrity, and the unshakable belief that good would ultimately triumph over greed. The music box played its final notes and fell silent, but the melody seemed to linger in the air. Reminder that some songs, once learned, never truly end. They echo through generations, carried forward by those who remember to listen. Victoria Sterling Cross had found her voice, claimed her legacy, and built a love story that would inspire others to fight for what was right. And in doing so, she had honored her father's memory in the most beautiful way possible by refusing to let his dreams die with him. The cleaning supplies were long gone, replaced by architectural plans and art supplies. The scared young woman, who had stumbled upon a music box, had become a confident partner, wife, and soon-to-be mother. But the heart that had driven her to seek justice for her father remained unchanged, strong, determined, and full of hope for the future. In the end, that was Robert Sterling's greatest creation. Not the music boxes or the precision gears, but the daughter who carried his spirit forward into a world that finally recognized his genius. The end.